Have you ever been playing a post-apocalyptic game and thought to yourself, you know what, I would survive this? Well, in this video, I've asked that very same question. I've looked through the entire internet and found some of the most iconic video game apocalypses, and I'm putting them in a tier list of survivability. D tier means I would survive this very easily and probably stay here for vacation. S tier means I'm taking the easy way out, or I'm immediately getting smoked the moment I step into this nightmare. Let's start this thing off with D tier, The Walking Dead. I'm gonna sound completely out of pocket here, but the Walking Dead virus happening in 2025 would last exactly 3 hours before we had it completely handled. Let me break this down for you. If the Walking Dead outbreak started today, the government would probably give you an extended lunch break and then you'd be expected back at work tomorrow. These zombies move at the speed of your grandma getting up from her favorite chair. You want to know the secret to surviving the Walking Dead? Walk around slightly faster than usual and go about your normal routine. The only real threat in the Walking Dead isn't the zombies, it's other people. But honestly, as long as you're faster or stealthier than other people, you'll be fine. And not to mention that the zombies in The Walking Dead are essentially just moving targets for what would become the world's most one-sided cleanup operation. So yeah, I'm putting this one in D tier because calling it an apocalypse is generous. This is more like slightly inconvenient Tuesday. But the next one is trickier, Mad Max. Now Mad Max is interesting because it's not really about zombies or aliens, it's about running out of gas and water. But here's the thing about resource scarcity apocalypses. They happen gradually, which means society has time to adapt. Sure, you've got raiders and road warriors, but you've also got functioning settlements. People figured out how to make cars run on whatever they could find. There are still farms producing food. The biggest danger is really just avoiding the psychos and souped-up death machines. And honestly, that's not too different from driving on the freeway right now. I think I could make it in the Mad Max world. Find a decent settlement, learn some useful skills, maybe avoid the really spiky cars. It's rough, but it's not instant death the moment you step outside. Rough. D tier for me, for sure. Okay, but these two didn't even compare to C tier. They're still not completely unsurvivable, but I think it's about a 50-50 chance of survival. Metro. Metro is basically what happens when Fallout meets claustrophobia. You're living in the Moscow metro system because the surface got nuked into oblivion. And honestly, that's both a blessing and a curse. On the upside, you've got established communities down there. People have figured out how to survive underground. There's trade, there's some semblance of society, and if you stay in the tunnels, you can avoid most of the radiation. The downside? The things living down there with you. We're talking about mutant creatures that make your worst nightmares look like children's cartoons. Plus, you find out in Metro Exodus that there are actually habitable places on the surface. But good luck getting there when every trip outside feels like playing Russian roulette with radioactive bears. I'm giving this one a solid 50-50. If I can find a decent station and learn not to wander off into the scary tunnels, I might make it. But one wrong turn and I'm something's dinner. Bloodborne. Bloodborne is where things get weird. Really weird. So basically, some doctors thought it would be a great idea to use blood from an eldritch god as medicine. Spoiler alert, that didn't go well for anyone involved. You inject yourself with magic blood to cure diseases. But surprise, now you're a werewolf. Or worse, you've gone completely insane from cosmic revelations that human minds weren't meant to comprehend. The streets are filled with people who've turned into monsters, and the good guys are hunters who might decide you're the problem. But here's the thing about Bloodborne. There were canonically people who survived by just staying inside and keeping their heads down. You don't have to go out hunting eldritch horrors. You can just lock your door and wait for someone else to deal with the cosmic nightmare situation. I'm putting this one at the top of C tier because if I can resist the urge to go outside and investigate strange noises, I might actually survive this one. The key is staying inside and definitely not taking any mysterious blood transfusions. Dying Light. Dying Light hits that sweet spot where it's challenging but not impossible. During the day, you're dealing with regular zombies that even I could probably handle with a decent baseball bat and some caffeine in my system. The real problem starts when the sun goes down. Remember that tagline, good night and good luck? Yeah, that's when the volatiles come out to play. And these things have the speed of Usain Bolt, the agility of a parkour champion, and the appetite of a college freshman at 2 a.m. But here's what gives me hope about Dying Light. There are established safe zones. People figured out that UV light keeps the worst monsters at bay. There are functioning communities, supply drops, and if you're smart about it, you can scavenge during the day and hide at night. The animals can't get infected in Dying Light, which immediately makes it more survivable than some other entries on this list. I think with a good compound and some discipline about not going out after dark, I'd have decent odds. Solid middle of C tier. If you thought these were bad, B tier, where I'm probably cooked. Resident Evil. Resident Evil is where zombie apocalypses get serious. The T-Virus doesn't just make regular zombies, it makes everything worse. You've got lickers, tyrants, and whatever that thing with the giant eyeball was supposed supposed to be. But here's what puts Resident Evil in B tier instead of higher. There are always survivors. There are always functioning organizations trying to contain the outbreak. Yeah, usually those organizations are incompetent or evil, but at least someone's trying. Plus, the T-virus outbreaks tend to be localized rather than global. The key to surviving Resident Evil is the same as surviving any zombie apocalypse: cardio, basic weapons training, and avoiding any building owned by Umbrella Corporation. Also, if you see any suspiciously handsome people in sunglasses claiming to work for the government, maybe go the other way. I think I could make it through a Resident Evil scenario if I stayed away from creepy mansions and underground labs. The zombies are fast but not supernatural, and there's usually an escape route if you can find it. Half-Life. The Combine invasion in Half-Life is basically what happens when an interdimensional empire decides Earth looks like a nice place to strip mine. They rolled up, defeated all of Earth's military forces in 7 hours, and then set up shop like the galaxy's worst landlords. On the surface, this looks impossible to survive. But here's the thing. Gordon Freeman is just a theoretical physicist with a crowbar, and he's somehow leading the resistance. That means regular people can definitely survive this if they keep their heads down and don't volunteer for any relocations. The Combine are more interested in draining Earth's resources than killing every human. They need workers. So if you can avoid getting caught up in any resistance movements and just try to blend in, you might make it through until someone figures out how to close their portal. It's gonna suck, but it's survivable. B tier because while the situation is terrible, you're not getting hunted down individually unless you start causing trouble. Stalker. The zone in Stalker is essentially Chernobyl if it had developed its own twisted ecosystem and physics-defying anomalies. You've got radiation, mutant creatures, and space-time distortions that can turn you inside out if you step in the wrong place. But you also have stalkers, people who make a living going into the zone and coming back out alive. It's dangerous, but it's not immediately fatal if you know what you're doing. There's even a black market economy built around artifacts from the zone. The key to surviving Stalker is respect for the environment. Don't touch the weird, glowy things. Don't go anywhere without a radiation detector. Pack enough vodka to cure radiation poisoning. Yes, that's actually how it works in Stalker. And maybe invest in some good boots, because you're going to be doing a lot of walking around dangerous terrain. I think with proper preparation and a healthy fear of anomalies, I could survive as a zone trader. Stay close to the outer edges, don't get greedy with artifact hunting, and always have an escape route planned. Lower B tier because it's manageable if you're careful. Now we need to look at A tier. I'm almost definitely dead here. Horizon Zero Dawn. Horizon Zero Dawn is unique because technically everyone from the original Apocalypse is dead. An AI called Faro went rogue, created self-replicating machines that consumed all organic matter and wiped out all life on Earth. What you see in the game is basically Earth 2.0, rebuilt by another AI called Gaia. The current world is actually beautiful and relatively peaceful. You've got robot dinosaurs, but they're mostly part of the ecosystem. The real threats are human tribes fighting each other and the occasional malfunctioning machine. But here's why it's A tier. Those machines are incredibly advanced. A Thunderjaw doesn't care about your feelings or your clever hiding spot. If one of those things decides you're a threat, you're getting trampled by a robot T-Rex with laser cannons. I'm putting this in A tier because while the world is gorgeous and you could potentially live a decent life in one of the settlements, the moment you encounter serious machine opposition, you're done. These aren't zombies you can outrun. They're military-grade hunters with advanced AI. Days Gone. Days Gone might be the most difficult zombie apocalypse to survive, and that's saying something. Let me explain why this one keeps me up at night. First, the sheer numbers. We're not talking about small groups of zombies shambling around. We're talking about hordes of hundreds of these things moving together like a flesh-eating tsunami. I remember playing this game and watching my PS4 sound like a jet engine trying to render 300 zombies on screen at once. Second, it's airborne. Everyone has the virus, but some people have resistance to it. That means you could turn at any moment, and you'd never see it coming. Third, and this is the kicker, animals can get infected too. Infected bears, infected wolves, infected ravens that can give you the virus. You're not just worried about human zombies anymore. The entire ecosystem wants to eat you. Days Gone gets a tier because while there are survivor camps that manage to stay functional, the scale of the threat is overwhelming. One horde wandering through your settlement and it's game over for everyone. The Last of Us. The Last of Us is probably the most realistic and terrifying zombie apocalypse in gaming. The cordyceps infection doesn't just kill you, it takes over your body and uses it as a vehicle for the fungus to spread. You've got runners that can sprint faster than most people can jog. You've got clickers that are essentially bulletproof and hunt by sound. You've got bloaters that can kill you with toxic spores. And if you survive long enough to see a Rat King, congratulations. You've witnessed the final boss of the apocalypse. But what really puts The Last of Us in a tier is the human element. 20 years after the outbreak, the surviving communities are just as dangerous as the infected. You've got the quarantine zones that are barely functioning police states, and you've got raiders who'll kill you for your shoes. The only reason this isn't S tier is because there are still functioning settlements. If you can get to one of the safe zones and keep your head down, you might survive. But your odds of making it there in the first place? Not great. On to S tier. Trust me, I have no hope for these ones. Frostpunk is what happens when the world literally freezes over, and you're responsible for keeping the last city of humanity alive. The temperatures drop so low that people freeze to death inside heated buildings. You're not just dealing with the cold, you're dealing with impossible moral choices every single day. Do you put children to work in the coal mines to keep everyone from freezing? Do you implement martial law to maintain order? How many people do you let die to save the majority? What puts Frostpunk in S tier is that even if you're not the leader, you're completely dependent on whoever is making these impossible decisions. If they screw up, everyone dies. If they make the wrong moral choice, everyone dies. If the generator fails, everyone dies. There's no escape from Frostpunk. There's no safe zone to retreat to. There's just your city, surrounded by endless frozen wasteland, slowly running out of resources while the temperature keeps dropping. Yeah, that's an S tier situation for me. Fallout. People who think Fallout is survivable have clearly only played Fallout 4, because let me tell you about the actual nuclear wasteland. First off, 80% of us are getting vaporized in the initial blast. If you somehow survive that, you've got radiation, nuclear winter, and fallout to deal with. But wait, there's more. Super mutants, death claws, rad scorpions the size of cars, and feral ghouls. Oh, and did I mention the giant mosquitoes? Because there are mosquitoes the size of small dogs, and I would rather wrestle a bear than deal with a blood-sucking insect that weighs 40 pounds. Even if you get into a vault, you're probably screwed. Vault-Tec had a 20% success rate with their control vaults. The other 80% were horrific experiments. There was literally a vault where they had to sacrifice someone every year or everyone dies, and they did this for decades until there were 5 people left. The Enclave wants to kill anyone who isn't part of their pure American bloodline. The Brotherhood of Steel might help you or might confiscate your technology and leave you to die. Raiders will kill you for your bottle caps. Fallout is S tier, because even if you survive the bombs, the radiation, the monsters, and the crazy people, you still have to live in a world where a Coca-Cola bottle cap is considered valuable currency. Doom Eternal. Doom Eternal is what happens when hell literally invades Earth. And spoiler alert, hell wins. The demons didn't just show up for a fight. They conquered the entire planet in what was essentially a weekend. Let me put this in perspective. The only reason Doomslayer can do what he does is because he's literally empowered by divine energy to kill demons. Every other human on Earth got absolutely demolished. We're talking about a multiversal threat that has consumed countless dimensions before ours. The demons in Doom aren't just monsters. They're an interdimensional force of destruction that feeds on suffering and death. They've turned Earth's cities into hellscapes. There's no negotiating with them, no hiding from them, no building walls high enough to keep them out. When the most powerful military forces on Earth got wiped out instantly, and your only hope is a single guy who's essentially a demigod, that's not an apocalypse you survive. That's an apocalypse you die in, and then probably get turned into another demon to help with the next invasion. Doom Eternal goes straight to S tier because there is literally no scenario where a regular person survives hell's invasion of Earth. You're choosing how you want to die, not whether you'll survive. But none of these were the worst. The wildcard, Death Stranding. I'm putting Death Stranding in its own category because honestly, I still don't understand what the hell is happening in that game. From what I can gather, there are invisible monsters, exploding babies, and Norman Reedus delivering packages in a world that may or may not exist. The fact that I can't even comprehend the rules of the Death Stranding apocalypse means I'm definitely not surviving it. How do you prepare for threats you can't understand? How do you fight enemies you can't see? Why are there so many babies? I'm putting Death Stranding in S tier purely because I don't know what I'm supposed to be afraid of, which means I can't protect myself from it. At least in Doom, I know the demons want to kill me. In Death Stranding, I don't even know if I'm alive or dead half the time. If you enjoyed this video and want to see everything people get wrong about zombie apocalypses, click it now.